According to the New York Times, Waymo has started test driving cars in New York City. Unlike San Francisco or Austin, nearly half of New Yorkers rely on public transit. Cheap rides could lure people off subways and buses, creating unmanageable gridlock. The city learned this lesson the hard way in the mid-2010s when Uber and Lyft flooded the streets, nearly destroying the taxi industry. Officials eventually capped for-hire vehicles, imposed minimum driver pay, and added congestion surcharge. Experts now warn New York must set rules before Waymo expands, proving that technology should adapt to the city, not the other way around. Okay, so what's the bottom line here? You cannot stop technology when it gives great value to a tremendous number of people. Autonomous driving cars are extremely valuable. They save lives and they save money. You put those two things together and they will not be stopped. Let's dig a little bit deeper. I'm sympathetic to anyone losing a job. I've lost jobs before. Now, not because I was laid off from technology. I was just fired because the boss thought I was horrible and it was not a good fit. But I'm sympathetic to anyone losing a job. But I'll go back to the example that I give frequently on this show, which is if you really think that we should not let technology eliminate someone's job because a job is more important, then we got to go back to 1960 and rehire the 400,000 live telephone operators the United States had. And at a time when every long distance phone call, meaning if you had to call someone more than 10 miles away, you had to pay $50. Do you really want to go back to those days? Because that's what it used to be. Plug this in, plug that in. And it was wildly expensive. Technology did get rid of the telephone operators and they all found other jobs. Is it always neat, efficient, clean? No, but the history of capitalism, the history of technology so far, and it could change at any moment, the history has always been when technology puts one group of people out of work, ultimately the pie of the entire job base expands. But yes, short term, there can be some people who lose. There's no doubt about it. I have a lot of sympathy for people who drive taxis for a living, drive trucks for a living. I personally can't stand to drive, so I'm always happy when someone else is willing to drive for me and I can pay them. But I can tell you, I experienced a Waymo 1 year ago this very week, and it was a fantastic experience for me. I was out in Phoenix. The car picked me up. At first, it's a little bit disconcerting because you're in this car and all of a sudden there's no one up front and there's a steering wheel moving. And I'm kind of feeling like this a little bit. But I calmed down after a while. I realized I was being irrational because when you look at the actual data points, the facts, human beings are awful drivers. 1.2 million people a year die in car crashes around the world. So pretty much anything, putting a dog with gloves on paws would be better and safer than a lot of human drivers. And I say that not to be disrespectful to cab drivers, because it's especially a way where a lot of immigrants and first generation people have started the quest for middle class and upper class success in America. But it's just a fact that humans driving cars is a dangerous thing. Is Waymo perfect yet? Is Elon Musk Tesla's automated driving perfect yet? No. Are there sometimes deaths? Yes, but it's so much safer than human drivers. So purely on the basis of respecting human life, I think we have to err continually in favor of using automation and technology for transporting people. Let's look at some of the facts. Waymo is testing cars in New York City. New York is different in that 48% of workers rely on mass transit. Very different from the rest of America. So the point of this columnist in the New York Times today is because New York City is so different, we really do not want to be encouraging people to stop using mass transit. If everyone can get an automated car, an autonomous driving car for very little money, then why use a subway? I understand that concern, but at that point, a subway is going to get you from point A to point B faster than a car, because if everyone's in a car, the cars are going to move, 1 mile per 2 hours, and you could walk fast. So there are some self-correcting aspects to this in the marketplace that solve the problem. Now, again, I'm going to say some things that are going to upset a lot of people, but I'll go ahead and say it. If Waymo and companies like Waymo put every single Uber driver out of business and every single cab driver out of business, that's bad for the drivers. There's no doubt about it. It's bad for their families. But it might actually be a really good thing for all of New York and all of society, and bad for grave diggers and funeral directors, because there's going to be fewer deaths. And we're going to have to come to grips with the idea that technology is going to put an artificial intelligence, because that's what's powering these cars, is going to put people out of business. And to the extent that it saves other people a lot of money and saves lives, it's going to be a net good thing. The question is, what do we do with these people who no longer have jobs? Now, I'm not like a lot of these tech gurus who just say, well, all government's bad, let's have a libertarian utopia, and let's worry about those people later. No, I think we should worry about them now. I'm very much in favor of doing more of what happens in Europe, where there's extensive retraining programs for people who want to learn new skills, where training programs, trade schools, and yes, even college can be free or very low cost, so people can learn new skills that can be valued in the marketplace. So I am not one of these, and it's mostly left of center types who are saying, hey, we got to really ixnay on the Waymo. Let's not do that. We don't want more competition for cabbies and Uber drivers. Again, I'm going to upset some of my friends on the left of center side of things. You can have all sorts of quibbles with the founder of Uber. Travis Kalanick is, by all accounts, a jerk. Let's just put it that way. You can say Uber has broken all sorts of laws and done horrible things, but they have massively created a tremendous experience for people all over the world. I well remember the time when I would be flying in from a training in some other part of the world, perhaps flying into LaGuardia, getting in at, let's say, 7 p.m. on a Friday night, and it's raining. And before there was Uber, I would have to wait in a line, sometimes for 2 hours, away from my family, away from comfort. It's a cold, rainy night in November. I'm bone tired. I'm standing outside, having to wait for a cab, one at a time in a linear way. It was slow, it was very inefficient, and it was exhausting. And it was still expensive. And only a few years later, I stroll off the plane, I push a button. By the time I'm outside rolling my bag, there's my car. I'm home 2 hours earlier. It's the same amount of money, or often less. You simply can't say that's a apples to apples comparison of this driver's is robbing this driver's money, because it's a completely different experience. Saving 2 hours of my life, getting to my family home in town, not starting off a whole weekend tired, exhausted. That's a profoundly different experience. And as much fun as it is to bash Uber, and as many awful things as they do, and they do plenty of awful things, I don't think it negates the fact that it has created a fundamentally different experience in life. Anyone traveling. And I'm now at the point, pretty much anytime I travel anywhere in the world, I use some ride-sharing service. And disclosure, it is typically Uber. And disclosure, I don't own any stock directly in Uber. So I'm not pumping them up, but it's a profoundly different experience. So I, for one, applaud Waymo trying to enter New York City. And I do think that the market doesn't solve all problems. The market doesn't solve the problem of if half our country becomes unemployed. It doesn't solve the problem of if there are no environmental regulations, we destroy the environment. So I'm not one of these who says the market solves every problem. But when it comes to transportation in New York City, I do think the marketplace will solve a lot of problems. If all of a sudden there's 200,000 Waymo autonomous vehicles and another 100,000 Ubers and another 10,000 taxi cabs, everyone will just decide to walk or bike everywhere, which, by the way, is how I like to get around when I'm in New York City. I have a rule. If I'm in New York City, if I can walk someplace in 30 minutes or less, I do not take a car, I do not take a cab, I do not take a subway, I do not take an Uber, I walk. And guess how many bad things have happened to me because of that? Absolutely nothing. So I'm hoping Waymo gets the green light to really roll out as much as possible. And for my friends driving Uber, I've met a lot of nice people, well-meaning people, quite often people transitioning out of one job or been laid off, or perhaps they've been a stay-at-home parent. re-entering the workforce. I give credit to people willing to do it, but I also think that we're here in the year 2025. If you are trying to make a living using the same skill that a 15-year-old with a second grade education in 1925 in New York City did, which is what a driver had back then, you've got to realize that you're living on borrowed time. You're going to have to work your way up the skill ladder and do something that delivers higher level value that a simple machine can't do. And you can say, well, TJ, careful what you're saying. We're going to have AI bots and clones doing your job, hosting podcasts. Maybe I won't be needed, but it's also why I have my own clone who is ready to talk to you right away in case something happens to me. So none of us should be too cocky. All of us need to realize technology is coming, and it's our job to figure out how to work our way up the food chain of value to constantly be generating more value. And my one experience with Waymo, it was fantastic. It showed up on time. It was smooth. It used turn indicators at the right place. It didn't jerk anything. It was aware of everything around it 360 degrees. And after the first ride, by the second ride, I realized, wow, this feels so much safer than if there's a human driver. It certainly feels safer than if I'm driving, because I know I'm a human. I can be distracted by someone in the back seat yelling at me, something interesting over here on the street, trying to find the right podcast. There's so many distractions that humans can get messed up with driving that a Waymo or any autonomous car can't. Are there going to be deaths from it? Yes. But the question is always, what reduces the number of human deaths the most? What preserves the most amount of human life? And I don't think any serious person would suggest that our current pattern of having 1.2 million people a year die in car crashes around the world with human drivers is the best way to go, because it is clearly imperfect.